look at all that money. Yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Oh, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for hemp. Throughout Earth's history, hemp's been used, no mystery. Hemp is legal to pay your taxes for more than a century. Check your faxes, the founding fathers made sense to me. It's time to grow hemp legally. It's time to grow hemp legally. It's time to grow hemp legally. Think of all the uses, it's money that's well spent. Right now, no excuses, it's time for hemp. Sustainable green industry, that's our intent. A better place this world will be, it's time for hemp. Fuel and food and clothes and soap. Housing, cars, yeah, cars, no joke. Henry Ford built a car of hemp. It's time for us to do it again. People be employed, balanced farming as it's meant. Right now, it's time for hemp. Hemp is the first necessity of wealth and protection of the country. Words of Jefferson Thomas. He grew hemp, why not us? It's time to lift the hemp ban. It's time to lift the hemp ban. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. You can make a difference. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Look at all that money. Yeah, the money that they spent. Take another look and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for hemp. Yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a rough start, but it was new for us to be live again. We've had quite a year here around the world, and I was wondering if I should even bother to bring my little radio show and TV show back to the airwaves. Because, you know, I spent the last 30 years trying to educate people about cannabis and hemp and to make it entertaining and fun. And in the world we're dealing with today on the global stage, sometimes my little show seems just that little compared to all the problems we are dealing with. But a friend of mine reached out to me from New Zealand a while back and asked if I could help bring a little attention to what's going on there and the voting booth in his country. And then another friend of mine reached out and said they'd help to make this broadcast happen. And then more and more friends reached out and said they'd also do what they can to make things happen. So we are starting here to do just that. The intention of the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network originally was to educate the world about all the wonderful things that hemp can do, all the jobs we can create, all the products that can be produced, the foods that can be consumed, and of course medical cannabis, all the miraculous things that plant can do as well for the human body and our pets. But the world stage really did get ugly. And as I walk around, I see a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. I see moms trying to raise their babies on no paychecks now. And I see fathers trying to provide for families with no paychecks now and no hope of finding a job. I see seniors that are alone and afraid in their apartments trying to figure out how they're going to make it from point A to point B. And we're all locked down inside our houses, and we can't even reach out to our loved ones like we are so used to doing. Speaking of things that we are used to doing, we are used to getting together as a group on April 20th and to celebrate this wonderful plant known as cannabis hemp, and to make it a real celebration. And this year, the whole world is locked down, but the spirit is not locked down. And the cannabis movement is global, and the cannabis family is all around the world. When I asked members of my cannabis family if they would be willing to roll up their sleeves and help with this project, I was overwhelmed with the response. We got lots of great guests, we got lots of musicians, and we got doctors and lawyers and scientists that have been working diligently to bring to the truth about cannabis to the public. And it is my job as a host to help raise their voice. That has been my job ever since a friend of mine hired me, as a matter of fact, 30 years ago next month. May 8th, 1990, Jack Hare hired me to run his office in Van Nuys, California. He started the Help End Marijuana Prohibition organization. He had just finished writing a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes, and he was about to go on tour to let everybody know about his book. And it was my job to help get the books shipped out and t-shirts shipped out and arrange his schedule. But in order for me to work with Jack Hare and his partner, Captain Ed Adair, two very, very wonderful spirits, I had to take a pledge. I had to make a promise. And I was hired at the time, too, in front of a lot of people. Jack Hare was working on the California Hemp Initiative, and we had Chris Conrad there, and Dennis Perrone, and Mickey Norris, and we had Dr. Todd McCurria, and a handful of other amazing activists that were trying to end cannabis prohibition at the time. We were all considered freaks, hippies, living on the fringe, and it was difficult to do. And in order for me to become part of this team, I had to make a promise to Jack Hare and Captain Ed, and it's a promise I made to the movement. Jack Hare made me raise my hand and say, I, Casper Leitch, solemnly swear to dedicate my life to ending cannabis prohibition all around the world, and to let the world know how important it is for medical patients who need cannabis to be able to get their medications without being considered a criminal. And I recognize how important it is to reintroduce this crop to the farm community so that our farmers can prosper, our planet can be safe, and we can create jobs and products that will be safe for the human race. I promise to do this on behalf of the cannabis movement until I'm 65, dead, or cannabis is legal all around the world. I made that pledge 30 years ago, and I'm still doing it. I'm not dead yet. Those rumors are just highly exaggerated. I look dead. I'm not 65 yet, and it's not legal all around the world. So my job has not ended. So in spite of the fact that we're all locked up and we can't get out of the house, it is still my job, as I promised Jack Hare and Captain Ed, to work to end cannabis prohibition with all of my friends who are still alive today. And that is another aspect of this. We are fighting a war. There's a lot of evil in this world. And some evil was unleashed in 1937 when Al Slinger and a handful of Congress members, maybe 3 or 4 in the middle of the night, passed the law known as the Marijuana Tax Act that outlawed growing hemp cannabis prohibition in the United States and then later around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, that was a true act of evil. When they introduced the Marijuana Tax Act, Kentucky at that time was the wealthiest Commonwealth, i.e. state, in America. Within 7 years of this law being passed, it went from being the wealthiest to the most poor in the nation. Passing that act robbed us of a crop that was good for our planet, good for our bodies, good for our health. Passing that act made it impossible for people who need medicine known as cannabis to get the medications they need. Ladies and gentlemen, if that's not evil, I don't know what is. So I made a promise to Jack Hare and Captain Ed, and I'm keeping it. And I'm fighting here at Time for Hemp to end evil. And we've worked hard to bring truth in our broadcasting. When Jack Hare released his book, he put on the back of it that he challenged anyone who could find anything in his book to be infactual, to be wrong. He and Captain Ed were willing to pay that person $10,000. Not one person was ever able to find any fault, any falsehood, any wrong fact in that book. It is true, this plant is amazing. It is true that this plant creates 50,000 different products. It is true that this plant is great for your body and that we need it for medications. And everything else is a lie. And we've worked hard at Time for Hemp since launching the Time for Hemp television series in 1991 to end the falsehoods that surround cannabis. And that brings me to another promise that I made, and that's another reason why I'm still here. I have promised all of my guests along the way, as they sat down one by one, that I would do everything I could to raise their voice loud all around the world. I've always felt that people like Chris Conrad and Mickey Norris and Al Byrne and Michael Krawitz had more important things to say than Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney and Robert Redford and anybody else you want to find in Hollywood. And from my point of view, these people are superstars. And a lot of these superstars are no longer with us, and I'm doing it for them. I have promised that I would help raise their voice all around the world. And along the way, we have recorded their interviews and made their interviews available in our archives so that when people like Michelle Rainey, you don't know her, but you should. She died before she was 35 years old of cancer. In the last 2 months she was alive, she continued to fight to help end cannabis prohibition, and she fought for people to get their medication. She even called me 2 days before she died to make a financial donation to the network because she loved the work we're doing. We're doing this for people like Jack Hare, who after he had a stroke continued to fight this cause. And even though he had problems speaking, instead of spending his time sitting around the house telling his loved ones how much he loved them, he got up off his fanny and went out and stood on that stage month after month in front of millions of people who would listen to him, and the best he could talked about the need to end cannabis prohibition. And with his last dying breath, that was what Jack Hare and Michelle Rainey and Captain Ed fought for. It's my job to keep their voices alive, and I take that really serious. And that's another reason why I'm still here. I've made these promises, and I intend to keep them. And tonight and today, we celebrate. All of my friends have turned out from all around the world, and I'm so thrilled to say that, to put a smoke ring around the planet, to help me keep my promise to all of my guests that I would raise their voice so loud that everybody on the planet would hear how important it is to end cannabis prohibition, would hear how important it is for medical marijuana to be available to patients who need it, would understand the viability of using this plant as a cash crop, who could recognize that these products are good for the earth, good for the body, and it's what we need. Okay, I'll tell you this, it's true. Jack Hare used to say he believed that hemp could save the planet. I also believe that hemp can save the planet. But I also believe that love is needed. And that's the other aspect to our network. We're asking all of our guests and all of our hosts that when they come on, that they put a shout out to an organization in their neck of the woods who's trying to raise money for the homeless or somebody who's hungry, or maybe it's for animals who no longer have a home because people could no longer afford them. And when you hear that these organizations have been shouted out, please roll up your sleeves if they're in your neck of the woods and donate. Donate money, donate time, and help. That is the other aspect of this podcast, is that we can't solve all the problems in the world, but maybe, just maybe, we can bring a little solution here and there and here and there, all around the world, while celebrating with love. And the final aspect of Time for Hemp is entertainment. And we've got lots of entertainment in the next 30 hours. We got brilliant guests. We got musical artists that are going to be coming on. We got all kinds of information to share with you. And our hosts are just brilliant. They're going to be sharing the duties with me. And I can tell you, in a 25 to a 30-hour broadcast, nonstop, I can use the help. One of the people who's going to be helping will be the guy who came up with the idea of doing this broadcast and who reached out to me from New Zealand, and that is Dakta Green. And I hope to bring Dakta Green on right now. Dakta, are you? Can they see you? Are they there? Martell? Are they on?
Here we go. How's that?
I hear you and I see you, ladies and gentlemen. But welcome Dakta Green from New Zealand. This is the gentleman who called me up and said, hey, Casper, I got a groovy idea.
Yep, that's me. I'm just readjusting my camera and positions here.
Oh, and then let me tell the audience, too, the other thing that no matter what we're doing, at 20 minutes past the hour, everybody who's on screen and everybody who's watching, we want you to fire up your pipe and take Time for Hemp. And right now, it's 19 minutes past the hour, so you've got 1 minute to get your pipe, get your lighter ready, and I can't think of a better time than to bring Dakta Green on at 4:20 New Zealand time on April 20th.
No. We're an hour away yet.
Oh, well, excuse me.
3:20 here.
3:20 there. Well, then we are really ready to
3:19 and counting.
It's always 4:20 somewhere, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, the clock says ding.
It's 20 past.
Oh, goodness. Welcome, Dakta Green, to Time for Hemp.
And welcome to you.
I love you, Dakta. I love you. It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
You're streaming this live on YouTube, are you?
YouTube, Facebook, timeforhemp.news. I think Roku TV, SoundCloud. We're making this so that people who want to tune in can tune in.
Right. Well,
so then, Dakta, let them know what's going on there in New Zealand and why it is that you thought it would help if we put a spotlight on what you're doing.
Well, I think it's fair to say, Casper, and thank you for taking up this challenge, you and your people. But I think it's fair to say that we have looked around the world over many, many years and said, why are we illegal? Why is this illegal? Why is the plant that we love treated with such disdain? And as we've all around the world worked hard to change these ridiculous prohibition laws, some people have got it through to their politicians quicker than others. We happen to be one of those that thought 10 years ago that we would be one of the first to legalise. But as it turns out, we're wrong. And here we are, we're still fighting. And here I am, turned 70 years old a few days ago on the 11th of April. And I'm facing the rest of my life in jail as I sit here before you today. It's an hour before 4:20 on April the 20th here in New Zealand. And I'm due in court in a few days' time with a view to these people want to prosecute me and convict me and send me to jail. I've been fighting this fight for many, many years, for more than 20 years. And they don't seem to realize that things have changed around the world. Now, of course, today, things are even much more strange than they were a couple of weeks ago. We have this pandemic thing that's happening around the world, and it's affecting our country just the same as every other country in the world. So we're not sure what's going to happen. At the moment, we have a complete lockdown in our country. Some guy who was delivering cannabis to the black market got stopped by the police to find out where he was going and what he was doing during a lockdown. And unfortunately, he had his cannabis in not smell-proof containers and he got snapped. Now, in this country, that's going to end up getting him a number of years imprisonment. 5 kilos of cannabis. It's sad, but it's still treated like that. I posted on my Facebook wall, which incidentally is Dakta Green, but I posted on my Facebook wall a few days ago that this event that we're a part of today was going to occur, and that we would start broadcasting this event, and that we would take part in this event. And in the 24 hours that followed my announcement, I have had 3 visits from the police on a bail check. I am on a curfew. I am under bail conditions. I have to stay in my home, and all for running a cannabis club in a country where cannabis is a prohibited substance. So in a time of trial and tribulation of this pandemic, our police still think it's appropriate to chase after people who are simply talking about our favorite plant. The plant that I'm getting calls constantly for, day after day. Where can we find a bud, Dakta? Where can we find a bud? And people can't find it. It's lockdown time. The only people on the street are police. So the fact that cannabis, as you all know, is such a beautiful plant, that it is treated with the disdain by law enforcement around the world is a sad reflection on the intelligence of our members of parliament and our politicians, no matter which country you're in. The fact that it's taken so many years for some countries to change, and it's taking so many more years for it to change elsewhere, is a sad indictment on the stupidity of humankind. So our position in this country is it's a prohibited substance. You're not allowed to possess it. You're not even allowed to teach people about it. It is on lockdown. Crazy, Casper, but that's the way it is. But we keep the fight up. We have a referendum coming up. You'll see the sign behind me if I move the right way. We have a referendum coming up in September where our people get to vote. Our citizens get to vote on whether or not we should have cannabis legal in this country. I'd like to tell you that it's going to be similar to the referendums that you've had in America, but it's not. Your referendums tend to be actually an instruction to your politicians where they're required to actually change the law if it passes. Our referendum is simply asking the parliament, our politicians, if we agree, then please change the law, and they don't have to. So it's not a binding commitment, which is a little sad.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like giggle on that because it's like, what's the point? You know, what's the point?
Well, our argument is, of course, Casper, look, why are we actually having a referendum?
Right.
It is clear that in a population of 5 million people that we have in this country, 500,000 people are regular consumers of cannabis. And if 500,000 people, look, it only needs to be one person, as far as I'm concerned. If one person chooses to use cannabis for whatever reason, and there is a law against that, then whoever made that law better be damn sure that they know what they're doing.
Exactly.
There better be a damn good reason for that law to be in place. The fact that the law has been in place for so many years, here and around the world, is just an indictment on stupidity. The fact that there are many countries now that are recognizing that stupidity and changing it is now an indictment on the stupidity of our politicians. So I hope that our people will vote for a referendum. The problem is the no vote is well funded, and the yes vote are poor old stoners like myself who don't have the access to the media. So we take every opportunity such as this. We'll be continuing our hard efforts, and hopefully we can convince our members of parliament that they should change the law now, that doing it through a pandemic so that we don't have our people running around during lockdown spreading germs when all they're trying to do is find a bud.
Well, and what you just said too about the opposition is so well funded. That again was one of the reasons why Time for Hemp came into existence. Jack Hare, when he was working on the California Hemp Initiative, was frustrated because we were up against the Partnership for a Drug-Free America, which had millions and millions and millions of dollars. But not only did they have millions of dollars, but anybody they gave money to, whether it be a radio station or a magazine, they expected that that magazine or TV station to also maintain their point of view that drugs are bad. So if anybody from the cannabis movement wanted to advertise on the radio or the TV, they could not. They wouldn't even take the money, even though the money was good. And they wouldn't have a pro-cannabis interview. They wouldn't do a pro-cannabis news story. And it just became very frustrated. Had it not been for community cable access, I don't know if our message would have ever gotten to the airwaves.
Yep. Yeah.
Look, right,
this is a people movement. It's a people movement. And the problem we have is that we are so, one of the defining things about people in the cannabis movement is that we are individual thinkers. And to organize us is like trying to herd cats. Yep. And you've heard that phrase before. If you actually go on YouTube, you'll find a short commercial that was made by some smart people. It's a clever commercial on YouTube, how to herd cats. And it's brilliant. It is possible. Well, if you believe commercials, but it's difficult. It's difficult herding cats, and it's difficult organizing people that are in the cannabis culture. Because we all like to take a toke and kick back and relax, and somebody else will take care of it, and I don't really care.
Right.
So it takes somebody special like you, Casper, and I guess somebody stupid like me, where I keep beating my head against this brick wall called prohibition. More than 20 years I've been doing this now. I've driven around our country from top to bottom and side to side in a bus on 2 separate occasions. We've campaigned in our bus. And it's an expensive and it's a time-consuming exercise to try and educate people.
Yes, it is.
Now, we did have a big breakthrough last year. When we had a new government elected a couple of years ago, they promised to make provision for medical cannabis. And those new rules and new regulations, the new law came into effect on April the 1st.
All right.
Now, I guess April the 1st, where you live, is the same as here. It's called April Fool's Day.
Right.
And it was a bit of a fool's day. Medical use of cannabis came into being on the 1st of April, but nobody's got any stock. Nobody. And you're not allowed to use, the regulations don't provide for green bud. only provides for expensive concoctions prepared by the big corporates. So, you know, our government has missed the point on what medical use of cannabis is. I've said for years that medical use of cannabis is not about pharmaceuticals. It's about the people in the cannabis culture, and you know them and I know them as those that know how to make tinctures and salves and such like. And they do that, mostly women. I call them our aunties of the cannabis culture. And they, years ago, they probably called them the witches. All right? They were the ones that lived in the bush. They're the ones that grew the plants.
Right.
And provided the herbal medications. Well, our aunties still continue to do that today, and they produce medicine, the salves, the tinctures, all of those lovely things that we like to enjoy that assist us through our illness or our malady, whatever it might be.
Right.
So we've now got a situation where the corporates have said we can make money out of this plant by turning it into some sort of medicine. But because of the dangers, they say, we have to do these expensive tests and we have to recover our money. And so one of the first medical companies in the business that produce Sativex, a UK-based company, they're in the USA now as well, but they make a fortune by selling Sativex in our country. The equivalent to an ounce of cannabis is the cost of a bottle of Sativex. It lasts about the same amount of time, and that's $350. $350 for an ounce of cannabis, or $350 for a little squirt bottle of Sativex that will endeavour to give you the same sort of effect. Now, they're just legal dealers as far as I'm concerned, and they're selling their legal product at black market prices, and they should be hung, drawn and quartered. If our aunties were able to provide the medicine to those people that are forced to rely on Sativex, it would cost a fraction, even in a black market.
And be healthier.
Oh, far healthier.
Far healthier.
You know, our aunties know how to grow healthy plants. They don't use nasty products, so it is important.
We're also being joined right now by another of the hosts of the broadcasting network, Michael Krawitz. I don't know. I think, Dakta, you and Michael have had a chance to chat. Michael's got shows on the Time for Hemp Broadcasting Network. He and Al Burns do a show called Veterans Voices. And Michael's had his prone programs in the past on the network. And oftentimes he is a joint host, and we do mean joint host on the broadcast when I do my show. And Dakta, Michael wanted to be on to say hello and join in with you because he is also very interested in what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you, Doctor.
And nice to meet you too.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you. So this is
the lead up to 420. It's about what 30 minutes away, right? At your time?
Yep, that's right.
Now, Michael, I don't know if you even know about Michael, but Michael is responsible for making it possible for veterans of American armed forces to get their medical cannabis without it having any hindrance on the rest of their benefits. Correct, Michael? Did I word that correctly?
Well, I don't know if we made it possible, but we were the ones that brokered the deal to get the VA policy that made it clear that it is so.
And Michael works with the UN as well. He's got some friends around the world who are working to end cannabis prohibition, and he just wants to be able to put a spotlight on what's going on there in New Zealand. Michael, what's going on there in the UN that might be of interest and benefit to our audience?
UN? You mean Virginia?
Yeah, or the World Health Organization. I know you work on a global scale with the cannabis movement.
Just before you answer that question, I wonder if you could give me the link on the side panel here for the YouTube stream.
I've got
Could
the
you give me that
YouTube
link?
one handy, I think. Let me see if
You give me that link in the chat room.
It's the Time for Hemp channel on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I just sent it, but you know what we need is the link to the Facebook Live one because I haven't found that yet.
Well, that's Facebook Live, and then it's supposed to be showing on the timeforhemp.news website as well.
Okay, well,
But that link there will. Oh no, that's no good. Okay, that link there will take me to the live stream of the YouTube.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's all I need because I'll give that to my people here and we'll put it up on Facebook and we're good to go. So that's good.
Before
you carry on talking, and while I just do some manipulation of electronic things here. This is very strange for me as an old man, I have to tell you. So that when I actually made the suggestion to Casper, how about having a round the world 420? I really didn't think about how difficult that might be, but here we are. We're doing it, and I'm delighted. So your turn to speak.
Well, it's a very great honor to meet you and a delight, and it's quite interesting. Dr. Green, right? We have a activist in Michigan named Dakota Blue. So I'd love to get Dr. Green together with Dakota Blue. That seems like
have a look at the spelling of my name here under my name. That is D-A-K-T-A, Dakta. And it comes from our nickname in New Zealand for cannabis is DAC. We have a DAC, all right? You call it weed, we call it DAC. Oh, we call it weed too for that matter, but DAC is a uniquely New Zealand nickname for cannabis.
Awesome.
And so I changed my name by deed poll a number of years ago because I felt that I had become much more a part of the cannabis culture than perhaps what I intended when I started out on this. And I wanted to take a higher profile in our campaign. And so I changed my name legally. And Dakta was the name I chose. Not Dakota.
Also, you're pretty famous. I guess you did a hot boxing and a bus. You and about what, 50 people?
Oh, I did. Yep. When we first opened our first club, you've got to remember that it is the possession of a plant in this country is illegal. And in fact, possession of some of the equipment to consume a plant can be illegal. Nonetheless, Normal in New Zealand acquired a large passenger bus and we converted it to a campaign vehicle. And I've driven that around our country. I've been to every corner, every town and city. And we've smoked openly, campaigned openly for law change over the last 20 years. And it was after returning from the first tour that we decided that we needed a home for our bus, which we called Mary Jane. And that home became the first dactory, the first club rooms. Now we don't need a bus to go out and campaign. We have much more beautiful club rooms now in our capital city. We just can't use them at the moment.
Well, tell them about the hot boxing that you do. Isn't that a world record?
Oh yeah, the hot box.
Newspaper for that too, right?
We looked high and low, no pun intended, all over the world for information about how many people could get into a bus and hotbox it. So we couldn't find anybody, so we set a record. The first time we did it, we set a record. And we've done it a number of times as we've traveled around. But the final one, which we held as a celebration a few weeks after opening the dactory in Auckland, our membership was so strong on it, we had them come together on a Sunday afternoon and we hotboxed the bus and we got 84 people. 84 people, and we filmed it. And it's a nice little YouTube movie, which you should go look for. Hot Boxer Bus.
Just curious, Michael, are you aware that we're actually on live TV?
Sure.
Well, I did not know if you wanted people.
I'm still gonna eat my apple.
Didn't eat your apple and drink your drink. You know, I was just curious, just letting you be aware. You know,
Hey man, we're gonna have a lot of people. We're gonna have a lot of people. 24 hours, we're gonna have a lot of people eating apples and drinking drinks. I'm in for the long haul here. I'm looking at this like a marathon, man. I'm juicing up. I'm coming around the first.
Tell you something. Mary Lynn Mathery pointed out, and let's see, Lynette Shaw pointed it out, and a handful of other guests and hosts have pointed out that what we're doing is actually historic. I did not realize it until after we got it underway and putting it together, but because last year the whole cannabis movement was able to go out and celebrate 420, and next year we should be able to. We should not be locked down this time next year, right? This will be about the only time where we are communicating like this. It is the first time that the cannabis movement has done a big joint pass where every time zone and got all the way around the world with so many wonderful guests and so many entertaining musicians. So I just want to let people know Time for Hemp is currently in the process of being involved in an historic project. And so that's kind of cool to know. So, yay.
Right. I'm going to give my people the number of this meeting so that they can join us on here if they can.
All right.
But we're just giving them the link to the Facebook page so that can go on that can go up, because this is what's then we can have our streaming happening on our Facebook pages. And then
while you're doing that, I wanted to mention what you got there. Oh, some nice looking bud there. My bud has some bud. So Casper actually asked me yesterday about my screen name. I think you might be able to see it from time to time pop up. Gauge. I'm not exactly sure how it shows on the YouTube feed or elsewhere, but anyway, Gauge is just something I picked up and threw on as my screen name when we first set this up, because it's actually what cannabis was called back in the day. So if you were hanging out in a jazz club around let's say 1920 something, and you're getting ready to go see Louis Armstrong play, and you wanted to get some weed, you might ask for a little bit of Gauge, and that would be what you were looking for.
And speaking of Louis Armstrong and the talented musicians of the cannabis movement, one of the things I've always been annoyed by is that these musicians are so talented, they often should be recognized by the top 40 critics, the Billboard Award givers, because they got great vocals, they got great songs, they got great riffs on guitar. I mean, they're just genius musicians. But because they're singing about cannabis and they're singing about freedom, oh, heaven forbid, right? They get ignored by the press. They don't get played on AM or FM or anywhere, but they do get played at the Time for Hemp Broadcasting Network. And I do want to say that a few years ago, the Global Marijuana Music Awards had reached out to me to ask that I be a judge in the Global Marijuana Music Awards, and I thought that was pretty groovy. And I accepted a Token Tam from Down Under. Her and her team put it together, and they did it for, 5-7 years. And they got all kinds of great categories: rock, hip hop, country western, reggae, of course reggae, right? Of course reggae, right? And so I agreed to, and because of it, I got to meet a lot of great, talented musicians. I got to hear so many people from around the world. Music was sent to me from all points of the planet to judge and listen to. And then I got to interview the winners and interview the runners-up, and got to meet so many people. I had so much fun. They've been asking me off and on to come back to. I did it for a few years, and I finally yesterday said, yay, okay. I am honored again to be a judge in the Global Marijuana Music Awards. And because it just tickles the shit out of me, pardon me to say that, to put a spotlight on these talented people who do great harmonies and great riffs and great lyrics, and just are out there singing about ending prohibition, ending arrest, and they're ignored when they should be given awards for all their hard work and dedicating their life and their music and every bit of their talent to ending this cause. So my love to all of those musicians out there. Know that we do appreciate every note you work on, and we do what we can to put a spotlight on your work. And do occasionally, when you get a chance, check out the Global Marijuana Music Awards. Submit your stuff. Who knows? Maybe I'll be listening.
Dakta, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit more about, I mean, I'm just amazed that in the middle of a pandemic, they sent officers out to your house to harass you about what they read online about weed. In this day and age.
Well, yeah, that happened because you have to understand that I'm here. My friends are going to be joining us as we carry on here. No Hoper is the first one. But no, we have. I was arrested when I opened the first club in Wellington, our capital city, middle of last year. I opened it in April of last year, but after a few months, they got to hear about it because I gave the media a major press release that we were opening and that it was time to legalize what we were doing and that we would encourage the police to come and have a look. Well, the police got all carried away and decided to treat me as public enemy number one and introduced the serious crime squad onto me. And so we now end up with stupid evidence that's going to be presented in court about Target leaves premises 10 a.m. on scooter wearing backpack. Target arrives at dairy. I don't know what you call them around well, but dairy's where you buy a bottle of milk, all right? Grocery shop, local store. And then the police continue. 10:07, Target leaves. Oh, and they had a photo of me on a scooter because I rode my scooter to it. And Target leaves dairy, returns to premises. And I thought, we've got serious crime squad coming after me for cannabis, and they're filming and recording me going for a bottle of milk at the local shop.
Well, and then they're calling Then they're calling you a target. That just blows.
I'm a target. Yep. Absolute insanity.
Because when I think of target, I think a target of something like I'm trying to shoot to kill.
Yeah, well, we don't quite use the word in that way here. I'm a target as it, you know, I'm on their target. I'm the bullseye. They're aiming to get me. So, but you know, I've been in and out of prison for 20 years as I fought this fight. It got to the point a long time ago where I figured, look, you guys can't do anything more to me than what you've already done. When a man loses everything, there's nothing left to lose. So the one thing I didn't lose ever is my desire to change this evil law. And so we carry on. And I don't want it to sound like it's me that's doing this. There are a whole bunch of people.
Right.
Before me, I stand on the shoulders of all those that walked before me, that fought this fight. But I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've driven around the country a couple of times in our bus, high profile, made noise, get picked off from time to time by police, and occasionally get pulled over by police to congratulate me on doing a fine job and wishing me luck in the campaign to change the law. And there are probably more police that take that view than those that come after us. Well, and usually the ones that come after us are the ones that are told to, and it comes from higher up, and it comes because there are political pressures involved.
Well, allow me to interrupt here for just a minute, because you're right. A friend of mine by the name of Paul Stanford here in Oregon, after it became legal, began growing cannabis and he had a warehouse that had like 500 plants growing in it. And while I was visiting him, the police called him and said that someone had broken into his warehouse. So when he went down there, the police sent the dogs into the warehouse. The people got flushed out. Then Paul opened up the garage door to the warehouse, and you could see the bright lights and 500 marijuana plants, and they were all about 5 feet tall. And the police officer was shaking Paul's hand, thanking him for the laws that he helped to change, because he said, and I quote, they can now focus on more important things than chasing people for their involvement in a plant. And then the other aspect is, too, when you call the police now, they will come to help you. They don't come and arrest you. And
Hey,
so you're
boys.
right. And I'd like to introduce someone who helped make this whole event possible. I was talking to a friend of mine about what Dakta had said to me, and Martell Golliday-Andrews said, hey, I will help make that happen. And I said, well, hey, if you'll make it happen, then I'll do it. But you got to do all the heavy lifting. And by golly, he has. He's helped organize the guest list, and he's helped bring in some fabulous hosts along the way to add to the events. He's made sure it's gone off like without a hitch on all the streams, and he's promoted it. And all I had to do was just sit around and complain that I had nothing to do. And I just loved it. I just loved it. And I want to thank you, Martell, for making this global smoke out, this wonderful love fest from our living room possible.
Well, I'll tell you what, I thank you very much for that. And then also, it's too much for me, honestly. I can't do it, you know? So just so you guys know, the front hour of this thing has not gone off without a hitch because I've been on the engineering, okay? And so it's been going off with a minimum hitch, but I got the cavalry on the way, so we'll be fine. If I would have it up on the website, it'll be good to go here in just a minute. But
hang on. Is the YouTube though live?
YouTube's live, yeah. YouTube's live.
Okay.
Yeah, YouTube's live. Facebook is live as well too. I just got to get up on the site. But like I said, it's one of those things where you work through. To be quite frank with you, the reason why I like this project so much is because we took such a philanthropic approach to this project, right? Like we went out specifically to help anybody we could with the message. It was one word, you know, we were coming at it for love, and that was it. Before we started doing anything, we were coming at it for love, and we went about it in that same route. We didn't have to. We didn't have a budget. We didn't work with anybody that. They just gave us their time. They gave us their effort, and we put together a list. I mean, over the next 2 days, we have a list of talent that I've never seen this much collective talent. I've spoken at several hemp conventions over the last year. I've been, you know, I've been living the good fight, not as long as you guys have, but I've been living the good fight on my end, you know, for as long as I can remember now. And I have not seen a collection like this. I saw 150 people at Texas Hemp Convention, which I live in Texas. They had 150 people, and I thought it was overly saturated because I'm like, who has 150? Who do you want to see? You know, but there was maybe 2 headliners there that were, you know, mid-level on this list, tops, and we got those 2 headliners here. Andrea is going to be here tomorrow, so it's like, man, the collection and just watching how you guys are able to make a phone call, and it's just old school. And Dakta, I forget how gangster you are too. You sounded like when you speak with the accent, you sound like a. This is what young black men would say in America right now. Like, oh man, when you get rid of a man and you take everything away from him, you can't take nothing else. You know, it's like I've been in and out of prison for 20 years. It's like, he sounds like an old black dude right now. Like he sounds like my uncle. That's awesome. And so I like it. But you've been doing your thing, man. Like you guys have been representing for so long, and it's been so. The movement should be further based on you guys' efforts, right? If everybody knew, and that was the goal for me in this project, is to bring to the table and bring to light that everybody knows exactly what it is that y'all do. So y'all's song doesn't go unsung, right? Because it's if we look at it now, the old activists of the day, we haven't had a Martin Luther King style of person in a while, right? It was since Martin, you know. Maybe, you know, I don't know if Jack or him died first. I don't know my history like that, but regardless, not Hera. Hera was our Martin Luther King. I meant Jack JFK. So Hera was really our last guy, and he noticing this timeline, he's made a bunch of delegates that came down, and it was you. It's everybody. It's Mark. It's all these people that he just put his soul in. It's Casper. It's Al. It's Mary Lynn. All the people that have his soul, his embodiment, his everlasting spirit. You know, his prana. they gone out and they've all fought good fights. Some of the collections that we put together, like later on tonight, I'll be on at like 7, and we have Tony Budden from South Africa, right? He's brought his 2 people with him that are lawyers out there. So Michael actually knows Fareed out there, who they served on the UN together. And it's like you keep seeing these connections. It's like Bill Parcells. I know you don't watch football, but it's like Bill Parcells in American football. He started as a really good coach, and he had a bunch of coaches come out and win championships. Howdy. And so he had a bunch of coaches come out and win championships. And I think that's what's happening here, but there's just so much censorship that, you know, you guys can live a lifetime fighting the good fight and not have any type of recognition. And so with the guy that's younger like myself, you know, and just happen to be in position, I put myself in terms of branding in the industry, cannabis, I'm just pro cannabis. Then, you know, it's, I think it's a good fit. I'm really excited to see what happens the next couple of days. It's going to be ridiculous, leading all the way up to Earth Day, really. You know, I'm excited about 420 as I've ever been ever. And I spent my last 7 ones in Denver every single time. And so this one for me is really special. Special people and just a bunch of old souls and old bodies. I love you guys, man. Like, I've made some of the best friends of my whole life in this last 2 weeks. And I look forward to just budding relationships and you guys just getting everything you deserve, honestly.
All right, now, did you say the first hour did not go off? People didn't see it, or they did see it?
No, they saw it.
And you got it recorded? You got it recorded?
Everything's recording.
Good.
Trust me, I would have been flagged you down in the background. I'd be like, hey, nothing's happening. Like, like, hey, I pray my niche from being self-taught, you know, and you know, you have some things to go with that. So, but like I said, I got it undercover. I just wanted to hop on. I'm actually going to hop off. I think Sonia might be stopping by, and I think Josh might be stopping by as well. But I got to get back administrating.
All right.
So, all right.
That I'm going to say right now, we all of a sudden look like the Brady Bunch. So we'll start with to introduce everybody who came on to the Brady Bunch family.
Our friends are joining us. Gary there in the middle. Well, he might not be in the middle on your Gary's raising his hand there.
All right, there he goes.
He's a long-time campaigner that worked alongside us for many, many years. And together on the screen here, we have Jeffrey and Farah. And they're both campaigners that have joined our club since we've opened it in Wellington. And we were planning to have a conversation with our members in New Zealand online at 4 o'clock today. And instead, we've joined you. We're going to enjoy our 420 with you. And this feed is now being streamed live on our Facebook page so that people are able to watch what's going on this particular feed. So it's working out good. It's working out good. We are talking to the world.
Well, and again, let me say this. Mary Lynn Mathery and Al Byrne pointed out that this is historic, and I'm so blessed that it turned out to be that way. And but we are able to use this as a way to help people. So the idea is to also give a shout out if there's an organization in your neck of the woods that happens to be working with homeless or people who are in need of food or animals who need a home because no one can afford it, whatever. If it's a legitimate organization that you know is helping people, please let the audience know who they are, how to contact them, how to reach them along the way as we have our chat, because we do want to send love all the way around the world as we put a smoke ring all the way around the world. And I want to thank all of my friends for helping me to live up to my promise that I've made to all of my guests when I said to them when they sat down, I would do what I can to take this message to the world. And with my friends' help, we're making my promise to Jack Hare a reality. Thank you so much.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Thank you, Casper. Thank you for knowing the right people and spreading it around the world. And here we are. We're coming up to, it's 4 o'clock.
Oh my goodness, we're getting there.
Yep, it's 4 o'clock.
In New Zealand. Now,
so here we are. Officially, this is the start of the 24-hour 420. It is April the 20th. Right now, April the 20th in New Zealand. And for the last hour, if you have just joined us, you'll be able to catch the recording. All the good shit's already, all the good stuff's already been on. I know, not allowed to say naughty words. Sorry. We say much worse in New Zealand, but that's us. We're just a little bit rough like that.
Oh, no, I get it. When I moved to Portland, Oregon, I was shocked. I mean, I was really shocked. I'm from Indiana, and you wouldn't say cow turd if you had one in your mouth. You just, right? You just wouldn't. It'd be bad.
Right.
And so I'm picking up a newspaper that any human can read, that has be able to read. I mean, whether you're 5, 5-year-olds are pretty bright, can read, right? And 12-year-olds. And they are using the F word in the reviews of movies. I'm serious. I was shocked. They were using the F word and then they use other words too that in print that anybody can just pick up and go, "Mommy, what does that mean?" Which, right? So I don't know. Maybe I am still so old school that I'm able to be shocked. Or that's wrong, but I know what you're talking about. You know, you say Americans, we're just more polite.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't use profanity. That's okay.
That's right. I know.
No, Americans can't be accused of much, I must say, but
Americans.
You are rude. You are indifferent. You are all of those things because you're such a huge country. So, don't try and bullshit a bullshitter. Okay.
Now we've got other people on here. Did they just come on and just smile and wave, or are you?
You can have a chat, and people will have a chat. They're here to join us for the 420.
All right.
But you can ask any questions. But these are our members.
I've got my microphone muted because I'm listening to our Prime Minister.
We got another old geezer on here like us, and then we got a couple of youngsters. So and we got a beautiful lady up here.
Coronavirus.
It would be nice to listen to our Prime Minister right now, actually. How about we do that for a little bit?
No, unless she's got something to say about cannabis.
No. She's talking about whether or not we come out of lockdown or not.
Oh, well, we don't care about that. You won't. Anyway, so why don't you tell us about your New Zealand normal chapter?
Yep. We're the heart and soul. We did have other people plan to come along, but right at this moment, our Prime Minister is speaking about whether or not we come out of lockdown, and then when we do, how that will happen. So it's important that we have a conversation and that everybody follows what our Prime Minister is seeking. And we're very likely in New Zealand to be the first country to eradicate the COVID virus. And we're united. I think there's 5 million people in this country and we're united as one. We want that to happen so we can get back to living a normal life.
Amen. Well,
and keep the rest of the world out of it.
Speaking of that, why don't each of you let our audience know what it is you're doing to keep your spirits up, and how you're entertaining yourselves and keeping the ability to go forward?
Well, I won't speak for Farah, but she'll tell you about her mum duties during a lockdown.
Not
how
easy.
Difficult are those?
To have 2 small kids, because they're not going to daycare anymore, obviously. So every day is like a new, like, what should we do today? How to keep them occupied and things like that. But yeah, my husband's an essential worker, so he still has to work at least part-time.
Okay.
And it's just
1 more week of lockdown.
Yeah.
1 more week.
Seeing that coming.
Level 4.
At level 4. Okay.
All right. So then, okay, and then how else are you keeping your spirits up? Your kids are keeping you active. Then what else?
Honestly, it's just having times of the day where I just like go into the room by myself and have a smoke, have a little bit of a breathe. Yep. That's the thing, helping.
And then how about the guy down here in the corner?
All right, Jeffrey. How are you filling your time?
Well, luckily I'm right next to a bunch of bush tracks and stuff like that, so I can go for a decent little walk without having to break any rules or anything. And that's been pretty good for keeping the spirits up, getting that sunshine, staying out in the garden or out in the bush.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, well, there's not much you can do during a lockdown other than the only time you're allowed out is for that exercise and stay in your bubble while you're walking.
How are you able to campaign for your referendum?
We can't, and that's a serious issue.
Absolutely.
It's a serious issue. The media is full of COVID-19. Not much else is getting any airtime at the moment. So hopefully this will be over soon as far as our country is concerned, and we can get on with a more normal life. But we've got another week of lockdown yet, so we've just learnt. And then we'll go down to a lower level that'll allow a little more business activity to take place as long as we're careful. And during that time, we'll be able to get out more easily into our community to start talking about the upcoming referendum, because it's, until we hear otherwise, it's still on the plan for September. So we're all about educating the public, and hopefully we'll get a yes vote. What else can we do?
And what does your lawyer think about all of this?
I don't have a lawyer anymore for my outstanding trials. I've decided to self-represent. I think that the law will change and that there won't be any comeback and that all of my charges will disappear. But then I've been known to be a fool at times.
Optimist.
I'm not always able to predict the future, but frankly, I don't really care. If the trials and tribulations that I'm going through are able to help change the law, then it'll all be worthwhile. We just have to show how stupid this law is. Why do we keep locking people up for it?
Yeah, and I've had a handful of senior citizens talk about how important this is to their medical care and to their ability to have a good quality of life, that they've often said, like you, that they're willing to go to jail for it with the attitude of, so they lock me away for life. I'm already 100. How long will that be? 2 years? So, you know, it's like we can outweigh the authorities. We're willing to go to bat for this. We're not backing down. Right? And we are. We're not backing down.
Right.
We keep at this until they change the law. If they don't do it this year, we'll be back next year. Right?
The stupid part is, I mean, we've had laws against us since the 1920s, more than 100 years. But the law that currently applies in our country has been in existence since 1975. Our anti-cannabis laws are 5 years older than our Prime Minister. It just does not make sense. It's no longer fit for purpose. It is time to change that law, or we'll have to change the government completely.
Well, and you would think that your Prime Minister would have been educated enough to have already done it.
Well, she has been quite busy, to be fair. There have been a number of issues that she's had to deal with since she's been Prime Minister. We had a massacre in the South Island. We've had an explosion of a volcano that killed some tourists. And now we have COVID-19. In the little over 2 years that our Prime Minister has been Prime Minister, she's been tested under fire. Yeah. And coming through remarkably well. Most people are supportive, and I think you'll see her re-elected come the election. But the thing that we want to happen that cannabis be made legal for consenting adults is still down on the agenda, down the list. So, and that's why we talk to the world, we talk to the media, we talk to anybody at all that will listen, that will lend a hand, that will say, yep, we're into this. So that's what we do.
You got a lot of famous people from your country that might have rolled up their sleeve to help. It's too bad we weren't able to reach out to them in time to get them part of this event. People need to know that we put this event together in like less than 3 weeks, didn't we, Dakta?
Yeah, no, who knew? Who knew? And who knew that the world would be in absolute turmoil? The moment we talked to you, it wasn't looking like this.
No.
So, you know, people that might have been available, they're either not in the country or not contactable.
But I just wanted people to know that they should recognize that this fantastic guest list and this event actually was pulled off in less than 3 weeks. And
Sure.
can you imagine if we would have had 3 months and a budget and a staff?
Yep.
Oh my golly.
Yep. And here we are. We're doing it. And it's not going to stop. You're going to take us a fair old distance around the world, and I'm going to come back and join you soon and co-host with you. I have a couple of things to do in the short term, but we're going to have a 420 shortly,
Yep.
and it'll be the first one.
7 minutes in about 7.
Yep, there you go. Get prepared, people. It is the first 420 of
April 20th.
April the 20th. It is April the 20th here in New Zealand.
In the afternoon.
And yes, April the 20th in the afternoon. It is now 4:13. We'll get an exact time so that we don't mess this up. 4:13 and 40 seconds. We'll do it to the second. So as I've already explained, but I'll explain it again, I am unable to partake because I am on lockdown and the police are watching me. I expect the police to watch this, and if they see me allegedly consuming something, then they'll likely come after me. In the meantime, come 420, all of you guys and all of you out there, I hope you'll spark it up and remember that if you have a legal market at the moment, that is what we all aspire to. We all aspire to the freedom to spark one up. Casper, we're envious. We're not jealous. We're envious. And we're continuing our fight so that we can do what you're able to do lawfully within your country.
Well,
you're lawfully able to blow smoke over the rest of us.
And it rocks too, because when I go out my door, I can go 2 blocks to the right, and there's a beautiful dispensary with about 40 or 50 different blends to pick from. And if I don't like that, I can go 3 blocks to the left, and there's a dispensary down there. It's got 75 different blends that just go, oh my golly. And then, if that really bums me out, I can get on my little motorcycle and go about 1/4 mile up the road. And there's a great little dispensary I can walk in, and they've got another 40 blends to pick from. And then when I come out, it's in a beautiful bag with the store's little logo on it. And even when the police drive by because they're busy going someplace, they don't care. They just wave and laugh. I get on my bike and ride home. And then I can sit here and puff on this, and everybody who hates the fact that it's legal, all they can do is go, well, it's legal where he's at. And he's right. It is. We worked hard for it.
I did think that I could have a secret little puff by doing...
and we're not arresting people, putting people behind bars.
I thought I could do that and join you for a puff. The trouble is that
they'll know.
Constable Dick is looking at me and saw that I put this on my face. So I can't actually do that because it would look obvious if there was smoke pouring around and out of my my cloth here, so I'm not going to do that. I just might
Mike,
turn
where
the
you're
camera
at-
off.
Mike, where you're at, is it legal?
It depends on what you're talking about. Your definition of it is.
Smoking cannabis, is it legal? Where you at?
I'm actually in Virginia, USA, and it's pretty dark here, as you can see. Just kidding. In Virginia, we have several different laws. One of them being an old medical marijuana law that allows you to use cannabis for cancer and glaucoma, but only by prescription. Then we have a newer law that allows you to use CBD products and up to 5% THC. It's a very complicated new law, and that's on the books. And also we have a new thing that just got passed, and it'll go into law on July 1st. We now have decriminalization in Virginia. That's kind of a new thing that we just got it through the governor's office. So we will actually have decrim in just a couple of months here.
Cool. We got 3 minutes before the big time. Yeah, and I hope the audience out there has got the bowls packed, got your lighter ready. And this will be the first 4:20 p.m. on the first April 20th, because it happens in New Zealand, baby.
Yep.
And then we're going all around the world, and we're going to end up back in New Zealand. And then I think afterwards there's going to be 3 hours of rock and roll cannabis music, rock and roll.
Yep.
And that's gonna end. That's gonna cap off the event. So it turns out to be like 30 hours of broadcast. So all the musicians that bring their little music videos to this event along the way, we're going to watch at least once along the way. And then at the end of the event, they're going to be put together into one big concert, right? Of 3 hours of cannabis music to end the cannabis day with. So that's what we're trying to pull off. A happy, smiling, we love you entertainment broadcast where we can get help donation to organizations that need it along the way. So how you doing?
Need to
how you doing?
get your
hey, Sugar Tits, how you doing?
Good. Hoping my mic works.
Yep, it works for you.
To my computer.
Well, I always like waking up and saying Sugar Tits.
She makes the most wonderful handcrafted leatherware that might include a cat o' nine tails and whips. So if anybody's looking, get in touch with Casper and he'll pass on your order.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. I'm sure I'll pass on an order of some sort. Yes, I will.
Yes, you will. And if you don't, she'll come and whip you.
Oh, thank you. I mean,
Okay.
It's nice to know that. Thank you.
Quite cheaply, actually. She's quite inexpensive to give you a good whipping. Okay, 30 seconds, people. 30 seconds.
First
4:19 and 30 seconds.
Yay!
And I told you I'm not going to join you, but I'm going to disappear for a moment.
All right. Well, it's an honor to be part of this team today, to be sharing this moment with all of you in New Zealand. Thank you for allowing me.
I'm delighted to be sharing it with you too, Casper. So here we are, New Zealand and Kiwis. We're about to kick it off.
Yeah.
It's coming up
Thank
in
you.
3, 2, 1. 420!
Yay.
It's 420!
The first one on Earth. So you got to blow all the smoke right at Dakta, and he can smell it.
And that is what
you blow it towards the microphone.
And we're proud of it. There are a lot of people in the 420 who say, "Oh, I support you, but I really don't appreciate the fact that you smoke cannabis while you're on the air." And I think, really? That's what it's there for. Or they go, "Well, I don't want to see a marijuana leaf in the advertising. I find it offensive." And it's like, really? It's like talking about maple syrup, but you won't put the maple leaf on it. Look, if you are that ignorant, well, then we're glad you don't advertise with us. Go away.
Which other bits of nature do they find offensive?
Yeah, well, we don't want to be lying. We don't want to be deceptive. We only want people who've got the guts to stand up and go, "Hey, this is what we do." Plant does a lot of great things too while we're at it, right? I mean, there's a lot of great things this plant does.
Not everyone has to be into it though. Like, you know, it's up to you, but don't ruin it for the rest of us.
Right. Thank you.
By the way, I'm breaching my bail.
Yep. There are some people that breach bail to do this, so just understand that for us in this country, it is still a serious crime.
Well,
In the middle of a pandemic, it's treated as a serious crime.
And because
I find that offensive, Mr. Policeman.
Well, and because of your courage, you're able to demonstrate too that this is an important date to the people around the movement. People say, why is Cannabis 420 that important? One of the reasons is it gives us an opportunity to come out and just celebrate love and joy and happy. We're not always coming out preaching about paper, fiber, and fuel. We're not fighting the police. We're not looking at courts. And we're not looking, well, we're just coming out and saying, I love you. And that's what our cannabis movement is about. And if you look at the cannabis movement, anywhere you go around the world, when you find people who smoke cannabis, you also usually find people who are full of love.
Well, cannabis culture was created by us, for us, and we own it.
Correct.
Here, here.
Like the plant. Let me tell all the corporates out there, we the people own the plant. There you go.
Well, that was Jack Hare's attitude as well. He couldn't figure out why they had to outlaw a plant. Who could outlaw a plant? And he recognized that once it was no longer prohibited to grow, it would, well, even Gatewood said it well, it would be the largest transference of wealth in history. And the powers that be who operate the synthetic fuel and the synthetic fibers recognize that once hemp is legal around the world, pharmaceutical companies won't be as needed as much because we'll grow our medicine and we'll be able to grow our own fuel. We'll be able to grow our own plastics, and we won't need to be giving all of our money to Shell and Exxon and, you know, that kind of stuff. And so there's going to be farmers getting wealthy and small communities creating jobs instead of the 1% getting another $1 billion every 2 minutes.
Yep.
Hey, Casper, true to our mission here, how about if we try to capture kind of a little bit of what is going on right now in your time zone? If you can kind of give us a little walk through the history of your cannabis culture in your area, with the the idea that if not live right now, later we'll have people from all over the world that are going to be viewing this.
Well, it has been, as I say, a long, strange trip. When Jack Hare and Captain Ed Adair and I were working in the Venice offices, and Dennis Perron would stop by, or Ed Rosenthal would pop in, or Keith Strop would be on the phone. When we got done talking, we would sometimes envision a day like this here in Portland, Oregon, where I'm at. But to us, it just seemed so much like, well, like a Cheech and Chong movie where you had like marijuana silk plants on the set where when you yell cut, it would all disappear. Well, now when you yell cut, it still stays. And it's like, it's nice to see the reality come to fruition where I'm at. The cannabis movement here in Oregon moved me from Indiana. Paul Stanford and his friends recognized that if I was living in Indiana, I wouldn't be that safe. And if I got busted a couple of times for smoking cannabis, like Dakta, I'd be dealing with an ankle bracelet, paying lawyers, and not doing a broadcast. So they put their money together, rolled up their sleeves, and paid to move me and my 3 dogs and my motorcycle all the way out to Portland, Oregon, where then I helped them, they helped me, and we got signatures, and we finally changed the law that by the time I got out here together to where cannabis became legal for medicinal use, and then we got it changed to use for recreational. And the police here are really happy with it. As I shared earlier, they actually thanked Paul, because in Indiana, if I called the police because you were breaking into my house, you would get arrested. I would get arrested, because when the police came and got you, they see my pipe, they find my bag, they find my scales, and jeepers, I would get more time in jail than you who broke into my house, right? That's messed up. Here, if I really need help, I can call the police and they show up, and they're glad to show up. They're glad to stop the murder. They're glad to prevent the crime, and they're glad to be called for a real crime. So that has been a joy. Jobs have been popping up. We've got bud tenders. We got people who are creating dispensaries and creating businesses for the bud tenders. We got growers. We got growers giving jobs to pickers. Now we've got that so that you can grow 40 acres of hemp for seed. And so we're bringing in business from out of state because there are states that will not allow this. And so they're coming into the state of Oregon to do their business. And when they do that, they bring in high dollar jobs and they bring in a lot of revenue to the state. So the state's making a benefit from it. The state's taking the money that's generated from cannabis sales and any taxes and using it to actually do good things with, to actually fix the roads, feed the hungry, take care of the kids at school, you know, cover the things that they promise. So they're finding out that it's a groovy thing. And like you, we're a little annoyed with corporate, but America was built on corporate greed. So we kind of got used to getting our little jar of Vaseline and saying, what bed do I jump in, right? But it has changed a lot. And I get to go down the street and get cannabis and walk around with my dogs, hit my pipe. A neighbor might not like the fact that I'm smoking in public, and I don't care. And I don't have to worry and be paranoid about looking out my door and window. I can actually worry about more important things than having my life destroyed over 3 buds of a dead plant. And so it's changed.
Or a flower. I've never understood when somebody said to me one day in the early days of my smoking, somebody referred to a bud as a flower, and it all became clear. This is the flower, and people get put in jail for a flower. There is nothing more obscene in the world, in my mind.
What makes it more obscene is after Jack Hare educated me. See, before I met Jack Hare, I knew it was obscene to lock people up for smoking a damn plant. I thought, that's nuts. That makes no sense to ruin the life. But then when Jack Hare sat down, when we call it hypnotized me, and pointed out that sails were made out of this, rope was made out of this, it was legal at one time in our country. You could pay your taxes with it. It's what made us prosper. Our first smugglers of this plant was Adams and Jefferson, and George Washington grew it on his plant. When you actually learn that Henry Ford not only created fuel out of the seeds from this plant, but he also took that fuel and that oil and created plastic to create the body of a car, that when you hit it with a hammer and you see that it's stronger than steel, you can make an auto body lighter in weight, stronger than steel. In 1937, along with make out of the same plant the fuel to run it, and out of the same plant the cloth to cover the seats, and out of the same plant the plastic for the steering wheel. You can almost make the whole darn thing out of that one plant. And that one plant also made how many different types of fibers? Silk, lace, and even the hard stuff that you paint on, you know, that they call canvas. It was amazing. And then when Jack Hare said, do you realize that the seed of a cannabis plant has the same molecular structure as human blood? It's 98% the same. And I went, no. And he goes, no, you didn't. And I said, no. And he goes, so then that means you don't realize that people who smoke marijuana live an average of 7 years longer than people who don't. And I went, no. Yes, it's been proven because it cuts back on heart attack and stroke disease. And I was absolutely mind blown. Once you realize that this one plant can actually create 98% of all your creature comforts and can feed you. Jack Hare pointed out to me that this one plant has twice, if not 3 times, kept an entire nation alive. During famine, during drought, they were able to produce this plant. This plant produced this seed. And with the seed, they produced porridge that was good and healthy. And even though it didn't add weight to them, it kept them alive until they could actually get raid and start growing their crops and get back to being a healthy nation again. This plant saved humans. when you realize that and you're told all of that in one setting and you finally get the realization that it's true, it is so mind-boggling that anybody would outlaw this. You realize it's just an evil deed done by greedy people. And it's true. Follow the money. Doctors back then were saying, no, don't outlaw it. It's good. Our patients need it.
I have said for years, Casper, the reason cannabis is illegal has nothing to do with cannabis.
Thank you. Henry Ford didn't know which way we were going to go. Were we going to go with fossil fuel or biofuel? He developed them both because he recognized that this was the better, but this was probably going to win out.
Fossil fuel.
But we did it. And on top of all of that, for the first time, the word $1 billion was used. The phrase $1 billion was used. But Popular Mechanics released in 1937 the article about cannabis hemp. And that was going to be a $1 billion crop that was going to save the farm industry. And wouldn't you know, jeepers, it was outlawed. And jeepers, we went to a lot of other avenues for all these greedy people to take money out of these farmers' pockets, destroy our planet, and rape us from our jobs. Oh, don't get me on my soapbox. Did you ask me a question? I'm sorry.
But you're right. You're right. And but most of the people that will be watching this next 24 hours and enjoying the celebration every hour at 20 past the hour, because we know it's 420, they're going to not be so concerned about the legality as the celebration. I think
I don't mean to lecture people, so forgive me, audience out there. I didn't mean to go off like that. I mean,
no. We all do that. We all do that, Casper. I'm just making it light because we're going to be leaving in a moment.
All right.
Because we've got to go and do other things, and I'm going to get organized to come back and join you shortly. Are you going to be able to handle things in the short term?
I sure can. I got Michael around. We got other people dropping in as well, and it's going to be just a groovy.
If you just keep doing that, and I'll drop back in about an hour.
Joy.
About an hour. I've got, as I said, I've got to tidy up a few things and make sure that we're all good to go for the long haul. I'm here on my lockdown with my soul friend, Mr. Ted here. He likes to wear this hat that he stole off Sergeant Law's. So we let him wear that when he appears on camera. Just remind Sergeant Law's that we're coming for him.
I'm a fan of bears. People who know me know that I am a fan of bears.
So, yeah, I'm a teddy bear fan. Actually, this guy is a little bit special. I should tell you the little story about this fella. We call him Ted. It's all right, he's got pants on. We call him Ted. I was on my way to court a few years ago, and I told you that we had a bus. Well, we had our driver of the bus call by the place that I was staying. I wasn't allowed to be around the dactory at that time, and I was on my way to court to be sentenced. And as we drove away in the bus from the front of this place, it was raining quite heavily, and I saw this raggedy thing in the gutter, in the drain at the side of the road, and I called for the driver to stop the bus. And I stepped out of the bus and picked this little fella up. He was dirty, wet, soaked, and I thought, a teddy, nice. And I left him in the bus, and somebody special to me had him all clean, dried, and all cleaned up. By the time I got released from jail a year later, he's been my mate ever since. So he's here beside me during this lockdown time, because when I went to jail, Gary there had to take my cat because there was no one to look after my cat. And he has the son of my female cat, is his cat. So it's now mother and son living at his place. And so I'm left with Ted here, And that's not second choice, that's just practicalities. It's what we have to do when we're facing prosecutions day after bloody day after day.
Well, I can certainly tell that it would be great for you to see another human being in your life. I'm just saying.
Hey, I'm a little bit like you, Casper. You see a few faces in front of you on a screen like this, you can't shut up.
That's me.
I'm a little bit like that too.
That's me.
You're
telling the truth. You're telling. I can't stop you. You're telling the truth.
Can I just say that have you guys on the other side of the world ever considered what it feels like to be in a country that is under a cannabis prohibition that was put in place by Nixon, and now you guys are legal?
Oh my gosh. Well, and then also the frustration too. There are people sitting in this country in states where it's still illegal, and they're sitting behind bars.
Yeah.
While 300 miles down the road, some clown's got a store selling it, and another clown's buying it, smoking it on a YouTube video, and he's doing 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
The frustration is global.
Yep.
And that's why we're doing this, and that's why I've not stopped doing this, and that's why I think my work as an activist is at least somewhat valuable somewhere around the world.
I would add to your slogan, the name of your operation, Casper, when it's time for hemp, I would say it's also time for truth. I have been speaking truth to power for years. We're going to continue doing that here in New Zealand, where this is a representation that's joined us today at this moment for the first 420 of this 24-hour period. We've even got a cat or two. Look at that. So I think it's fabulous that that this is going to be happening. I'm delighted to be part of it. I will be happy to be back here soon. Give me an hour or so and then I'll be with you for a period of time, but I need to go and do other things now and prepare for this.
Rudy.
So thank you again. Take care. And to all of our team here in New Zealand, you're representing everybody else that's watching us now on YouTube or watching us in a recording. And we're not giving up, people. We're going to change this ugly law because I'm not going to be treated as a second-class citizen in my own country when I can look around the world and I can see crazy, insane people in other places that are legally allowed to smoke cannabis. Now, I don't consider myself to be a crazy. I consider myself to be an old man that should be allowed to have a puff to quieten his old age nerves. And I should be allowed to do that legally. So take care, guys. Thanks all. And we'll talk to you very shortly. I'm leaving the meeting now. Take care. See you soon.
A little bit, Dakta.
Dakta, you did more goodbye. You did more goodbyes than a share.
I know, but a lot of people watching, and they'll be able to take the quiet little bits and say, "Yeah, I'll have this one, thank you."
Hey, can I just say, I read
Absolutely.
the whole story about how it was done, and all the people you're talking about are all my heroes and have been for a long time.
So the details of this law you're trying to get passed, this referendum, does it allow you to grow what, 12 plants, 100 plants, 3 plants in your backyard? Is it what's the nuance to it?
Proposed to be I think it's 4 plants per person, but a maximum of a certain number per house. It's a ridiculous amount and nobody will stick to it, but they have to say these ridiculous things in order to get the people sitting on the fence on our side.
All right. Well, I was just curious. And when is the election?
That's in September.
So you got a ways yet.
Yeah. But everything's been put on hold for the moment, as you'd expect.
Mm.
So, Michael, you too have also been very busy on the front. You've been working with the Veterans Voices, and with the Veterans Medical Marijuana Cannabis site. What's new on that?
Well, let's not talk about me right now. I mean, we're still in New Zealand time. Come on. Gary, if you don't mind speaking for your region there and accepting an apology, I'd like to apologize on behalf of people in the United States for Richard Nixon's efforts. They were not representative of the people's will of the United States. And the cleanup around the world goes on.
Well put, Mike. Well put. Well put.
When I do talk a little bit more about the work that I do at the international level, it is very much to undo some of the damage that our Harry Anslinger did under Nixon's watch.
Well,
so it's very painful for us.
I often point out to people that he's the only United States president who started a global war that is still killing people more than 20 years after his death, more than 40 years after he resigned.
Wow. That's interesting. I never thought about it that way. So, I mean, what's the history of...
is affected by
what's the history? Well, what's the history down there in New Zealand? I know very little of New Zealand, so I'm anxious to hear everything.
Well, we were one of the first nations to prohibit cannabis. It happened in 1927 in this country, but it wasn't properly, I suppose, militarized until the war on drugs started, and then the Nixon and United Nations conventions imposed on New Zealand meant that we had this Misuse of Drugs Act that we're stuck with now. It hasn't changed. It's only had slight amendments to it for the last 45 years. And that's what we're trying. We actually had a law commission did a special report in 2010, which was released a report in 2011, that said that our Misuse of Drugs Act was unfit for purpose and needed to be completely repealed and replaced. And that was ignored by the government of the time.
Well, my question to here is, how do you have a supply? I mean, you're basically cut off from the world.
Black market.
Imported in.
100% black market.
But I mean, is it growing there? I mean, I can't see how it would get into the country from outside.
No, it's all mostly growing. There are some people importing certain things, but mostly growing. It's a domestic market.
And Dakta said that you guys opened the dactyry to the public, and you've been very public about what the dactyry is all about, and it's managed to thrive. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, the thing that doesn't get much coverage is the amount of people walking through the door who couldn't believe, A, that we created a club and a safe space for them, and B, that the safe space had such a nice atmosphere and vibe to it. It was such a welcoming, friendly place. And in New Zealand, everywhere you go is somewhere that's selling you alcohol, and they're not nice places. I don't think they're nice places anyway, but you know, so we almost created a little utopia, but you know, the police wouldn't let us continue. And unfortunately, it's had the repercussions now that they're trying to encourage us to keep our clandestine contacts to a minimum, but we're not being offered a legal option to make safe transferal of goods. So the prohibition here is actually working against our lockdown, against the virus, because people are reluctant to have minimal contact because they're forced to enter the black market just to get supplies. And that's untraceable contacts, all of them.